if you listen real well, you can hear birds and insects. And of course, a little bit ago, when I first sat here, and really I'm not sitting, I'm lying on the ground in the grass up under an old oak tree. And I'm doing that because it's still hot. It's the last day of summer. Can you believe that? The last day of summer. The very last day of summer. And I'm very fortunate enough to be lying here in the grass looking up at this tree and the sun, and it's quite warm. When I first got here, I had just sat down, or it just got here. And all of a sudden, I've been real still for just a couple of seconds. And all of a sudden, a bunch of birds flew up. 2 at first, and then 3 or 4 more. So there was like 5 together there for a minute, and they were just obviously disagreeing about something. And so that's kind of how I found myself here, and it was so cool because they're just on the limbs. There's 2 or 3 limbs up there, branches. And of course, I was sitting there, and they were all right there just above me, 5 or 10 feet. And I was hoping they wouldn't defecate on me, and thank God they did not. But anyway, so it's I'd rather them do that though than some of the things I've done this week. And of course, a lot of it is what I consider wasting time in a vehicle. But of course, it sure is great to get to where you're going to. I had a great experience traveling this week, which is my first topic. The second one would be the trippy conservative. And the third one is, how big are we, and is there a bottom? But anyway, the travel part, I like getting to where I'm going to. I mean, I loved Heber Springs once I got there. I loved Batesville once I got there. I enjoy being in those towns and being around those people and doing the things that you do when you're there. But the travel to get there is just so grueling, man. It's like, so the traffic is so horrible. On the way home, I saw tons and tons of wrecks. And it just freaks me out. I don't like to drive anymore. Like I said, it's just, I love to travel, but I hate to be in a vehicle, if that makes any sense. But anyway, I'm back home after a 1,200-mile week. I touched about every location that I'm usually touching on a monthly basis in just a couple of days. So I rode a lot of miles, got to meet lots of people. Yesterday was at a safety conference in Batesville. And I learned a lot. I was reminded a lot. There was a speaker there, and he told about an incident that happened to him back in 1981. He was involved in an industrial accident where he was not an electrician. He was a certified boiler man. So he was in there, working on the boiler, and the plant operator, the manager, said, "Hey, man, fix our, we have no heat for the employees, and if we don't get them, this is like on December the 1st or 2nd or whatever it was, right near Christmas in 1981. Please fix these heaters for us." And anyway, he went over to the breaker box, and he's like, "Man, I'm not a mechanic, but Anyway, he felt pressured by the plant manager to get it done. And anyway, so he wound up having an industrial accident where it blew up on a 20,000 degree, electrical arc. Had got him, and whenever he pulled a breaker out, he didn't know what he was doing, and it got him. Anyway, he went on to talk about his recovery process and what he thought about, and he talked to several ways to motivate us to want to emphasize safety. And the one thing that really stuck out for me was what he talked about was not a Coke bottle, but a bottle of water. And of course, he says, "All right, the only rule that I'm going to give you," he asked for a volunteer from the audience, one volunteer, and said, "Hey, the only rule you have is that you can't open this bottle with using your forearm or your hands." And of course, the guy that he had up on the stage was an ocean man, and he knew what to say. And I really like this, is that, it's like, you can't do it yourself. You have to ask for help. And that's exactly what has to happen in an industrial environment so that people don't get hurt. Because whenever people start doing things by themselves and, it can be bad. It turns out bad. And that's what happens a lot of times when they're over their head and they don't know what they're doing, and they get themselves into a bind because they're not familiar with whatever's going on. Anyway, so yeah, the bottle, you got to ask somebody to open it up for you. You don't need to do it yourself. You can't do it knowing those restrictions, because there's restrictions if you don't know how to do something. And those restrictions are that you'll get killed if you try to do it the wrong way. So there was that, and then he also Goldrich, I believe his name, Ronald Goldrich. Anyway, yeah, I think he was from North Carolina. I have to look him up. I'll put him in the links to this. But anyway, he also he had everybody touching his hand. You know, he talked about a skin graft, and it looked good. You know, from a distance, his grafts on his hands and such. But then he got a bunch of people to touch his hand, his skin on his hand. Then he told everybody that it was from his butt. You know, it was funny. Everybody was laughing. It was a good time. You know, it was a great experience. He talked about the thing of stop and ask for help. You know, get someone else involved. You know, if you don't know what you're doing, if you're over your head, that was his major thing. You know, that from his experience, he didn't know what he's doing is over his head. He should have asked for help. He should have shut things down. But he made a mistake of not. He let people pressure him, and of course, it's big to be able to say no. So that was my travels this week. Like I said, I got to go up to a safety conference, and that's only a small amount of what I've learned when I was there. But it was a really great experience. There were some other great speakers there, and it was just I learned a lot. I had to leave, as soon as it was over, and get in the car and drive about 5 hours or so. But which gave me some time to think about what we talked about in there. But it was a great experience, other than the driving part. Oh, I'm going to get me a helicopter, I believe. Okay, let's see. The Trippy Conservative. I guess that's kind of me. I mean, Facebook tells me that I'm a conservative. They choose. If you go into your settings, you can look at the data that Facebook keeps on you, and I'm an ultra conservative apparently. According to them, and I guess in a way I am, but I'm also kind of trippy, because I'm a Generation Xer, and I've traveled a whole bunch, very well read, and of course when you're like that, you look at things differently than if you don't. If you've been around different kinds of people, and of course I think that's why I'm so trippy, is that I've traveled so much and been around so many different kinds of people, and you run across everything when you're out on the road. And I guess that what you realize is that we're all the same. There are some weird people on this planet. I've met murderers. I've met, people that had just all kinds of things. I mean, just everything. Great people, great leaders. People that have done some horrible things. I mean, just people that are in the middle that just need a helping hand to get pushed up. I've met all these kinds of people. So it's kind of made me kind of like the little trippy conservative, and I would say the liberal conservative, but I don't know what that would do for people. People have this really bad idea of what liberal is anyway. If you look up classic liberalism, you'll probably find yourself going, oh, wait a second, that's me. But I am conservative in a lot of ways. I'm definitely monetarily and so conservative, but when it comes to a lot of social issues, I'm conservative for my own self. That is, I've never ask for an abortion or anything like that. I think that's despicable. But what everybody else does is not really my business. I just want to stay out of it. There's some crazy things that go on in life. I've met all kinds of people. I've had all kinds of experiences myself. I've been in situations that I never thought that I would be in, and that I know a lot of people that have never been in those situations because they've lived in such a cocoon. So if you've lived in a cocoon, it's easier to be, socially conservative, in my opinion. But if you get out and you experiment life and you see different kinds of people and you experience life from the perspective is that sometimes things happen, you're in the wrong place, you're doing something, if you're out, let me tell you this, if you try things, you're going to make mistakes. I'll just leave it at that. So that's the Trippy conservative. So I'm a little bit, I support the whole cannabis movement. I'm not saying that I oppose alcohol. I mean, that's what people want to do. Me, alcohol and Brad have never got along too well. Whenever I have any kind of an alcohol experience, it's usually not too good for me. So, the Trippy conservative, which really leads into the next thing, we're talking about social conservatism, and we move off into how big are we? And is there a bottom to it? Well, how big are we? I love this relativity. A lot of people, you may or may not look at the universe or even think about such a thing or a galaxy. If you've ever paid attention to one documentary that went in and explored how big a galaxy is and how many stars are in a galaxy. And by the way, do you know how many stars you can see from Earth with the naked eye? You're probably thinking millions, right? Well, it's like 10,000 stars that are actually visible to the eye. Now, some of those stars we think we see are not really stars, but they're, you know, a whole other galaxy, which is, you think about the time involved in that, and it's really crazy. And of course, when you think about the time involved in that, you know, one of the things that come to your mind is, oh my goodness, I'm so small. But then again, if I look at myself towards some kind of a quantum material, I go, oh my goodness, I'm so large. I'm, you know, a meter times, you know, 10 to the 34th or 44th power big compared to a Planck length. So I'm huge. And is there a bottom? But I'm huge, but I'm also small. So if I ever, you know, about a long time ago, a friend bought me a gift, and it was, you know, it was like a book title. It was like a blank book that was decorated up like the book you want to write. And of course mine was, how big are you? How big are we? And of course, I like that scale, to look at everything on that continuum, from we're so infinitesimal small that we don't matter, till we're so huge that we can't be understood by something smaller than us, which is kind of the way it is with us in the universe. We don't understand what it is because we're so small. And there's other things that we're so big that they can't understand us. We're a universe to it. In fact, a microbe that lives on my body somewhere, on a, not a microbe, but a very small material I don't even know the name of, that exists in my biome, on top of another one, you know, and you're getting real small little thing, you know, and then it goes on down forever. We don't even know, you know, what forms the structures that we see when we look under a microscope. But you can keep on down, and there's things that move, okay? It goes way down there, very, very, very small. So it's hard to even comprehend that. And like it can't comprehend us because it has no idea to look above its 6 or 7 layers. That gets deep real quick, doesn't it? And that's a lot for a lot of people on a Friday afternoon, isn't it? And you know what? Again, it's the last. Well, I want to leave you with that thought. Okay, I was going to go ahead and close out, but I want to let you know that I'm going to leave you with those thoughts about the, well, you know, the Trippy conservative. You may understand that, but the, you know, how big are we? That's a weird thought to end on. You know, on this Friday, the day before the first day of summer. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're having fun. I hope you're being safe. Hope you're feeling love. I hope you're being loved. And all I can say is welcome to us, fall. Come on home. Have a good weekend.